Okay. All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Confidently in Charge virtual talk show and podcast. Today, we have the phenomenal Karla Merrell here, and she really has just an incredible story of developing self-leadership and kind of having to, show up with herself and discover, what her direction was in life. And so she has just this amazing story, and prior to, this new story happening, just had tremendous success, and is an entrepreneur who knows the challenges and knows the process of pulling out of them. And so I'm so delighted to have her here with us today to chat. Karla, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Let us know who you are and all of that, and then we can dive into our chat.
Thank you, Allison, first of all, for having me. This is amazing. It's so exciting. And for those that I haven't met yet, I am Karla Merrell, the event maximizer. And what lights my soul on fire is to be able to help female entrepreneurs and aspire female entrepreneurs to find what they need the most for their business, clients.
I love
find
that.
them that way to connect with their most profitable audience and get a client with ease in 30 days or less.
Oh my gosh. And that is, there's so much that goes into getting clients, like you have to have the strategic know-how of reaching people. And then I know for you, you also talk about the mindset aspect of like having that. So I would love to just dive in and sort of talk about, 2020 has been absurd for everyone. Entrepreneurs and people who work for themselves saw just upheaval. And so I would love to just ask, how has 2020, this is a big question, how has 2020 transformed you and your business? Just what's been up in 2020 with you?
It is definitely a big question, so I'll try to answer and summarize as possible. As you know, before COVID, I've had my business for 8 years. I was previously, my previous life, I was an attorney. And I dived in as a solopreneur 8 years ago with an event planning company. And I niched at about 5 years ago into helping specifically speakers and female speakers and coaches into making their events profitable, to make events a revenue event. And as all these events happen live, right, in person. So as you can imagine, when really COVID settled in March with all the multiple lockdowns, everything that was scheduled for 2020 was quickly, in the space of 30 days, canceled. All the major revenue for my business was canceled, one after the other, all the way to October, then November, until I realized it was going to be canceled for the year. Correct. Yeah. Luckily, I've had the vision, and you'll hear me talk a lot about vision, right? I had the vision 2 years ago of opening an online course, starting and creating and putting out there an online course for those female entrepreneurs that are not in the live event space, but needed clients, right? I found that the formula was the same, so I created this online course, which was my plan B. It was my additional revenue source, right? And it
and everyone
really
was doing it, so why not? I mean, that's what you do.
Exactly. And really quickly, that plan B had to become plan A because the main source of my revenue was canceled. So as a strategic mind as I am, and I was like, okay, let's pivot. Let's just make this course the main thing. Let's just put it as a digital product so it can reach more people. And in doing that, this is the important part of the story, right? Like in doing that, I could have chosen several ways to do that, right? It was always also in the back of my mind. I just thought that it was going to be a slower process. Having my first revenue source canceled, I had to do it quick. And I could have done it many ways. And the way I chose to do it was 100% driven by an egocentric decision, meaning I was looking at other people, like you just said, other people, maybe on Instagram or on Facebook, social media, other people doing it. And I was like, I can do it too. All I have to do is do exactly what they're doing, follow the 1, 2, 3 step, and it will give me the same result. Well, that did not happen.
It did
After
not.
30, it did not. And I'm a go-getter, and I'm an action motivated person. And as much as I worked 12-hour days, 15-hour days for 35 days in a row, that did not happen. I did not become an overnight millionaire. And the reason it didn't happen, Allison, what I understand now is that this whole COVID process, right? And when I say it did not happen, it tanked. It was a complete fail. After having an 8-year successful business, I found myself in a place of failure. I was embarrassed because, you know, everything that you do in social marketing, you're putting yourself out there, right? So I felt embarrassed about my results. And most importantly, my ego was hurt because I was like, if other people can do it, I'm following the same formula. What is it not working for me? Right. So that brought self-doubt. That brought, as an entrepreneur, and I'm sure there's many entrepreneurs in your audience, we have to make decisions to turn either left or right every single day. And I found myself in a space of confusion and overwhelm and self-doubt that I was like, I don't know if it's left or right. I have no idea. And I don't trust if I go left, maybe it was right? So that place of mistrust and being just sunk into the failure was consuming me.
Oh my gosh. Like that place, to be in that place, and, you know, many entrepreneurs listening might resonate with like, oh yeah, I've been there. I've been in that, just like, I have no idea what to do. I don't know. I think a lot of times when we're starting as entrepreneurs first too, and we don't have that self-trust muscle built up, it's like, oh, it's so scary and it feels overwhelming. So how did you pull yourself out of that? How did you, I mean, you seem to be pretty joyful and jubilant these days. So how'd you pull yourself out?
I am joyful. Thank you for noticing. Yeah, so I was in a very dark space. I mean, to the point that I can describe that my days felt like that movie Groundhog Day, where like every day was the same. There was days I wouldn't get out of my pajamas. Like getting out of my pajamas would be a win. There were days that I was self-medicating myself with food and comfort and, you know, Netflix here and there, and maybe having too many COVID cocktails. I was just trying to escape from that place that I was feeling, right? Because it really undermined my confidence, which is my biggest asset, and my motivation. So to get out of that place, I really had to step away from it, and having a real conversation with myself and say, you can't really control every outcome. Like, you thought that if you fall steps from 1 to 5, this was going to be the outcome. And you're so tight to it, like holding it so tight, and it's not working. So I took a step away from it, and actually went on an RV trip, camping with my husband and my 2 kids. I have a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old, because obviously working 12, 15 hours a day, which was literally killing me, right? I wasn't spending enough time with them. So I said, let me just go in nature. Let me go back to the basics was my thing. Let me go back to the basics and put myself in that space of the student, right? Because after having a business being successful for over 5 years, I wasn't in that space anymore. And I realized that, let me get off of the control and go into the student space. Like, this is the first time I opened this business, and goes back to the basics. So I went to nature and, you know, reflected, journaling, all that. And what I found was that my path, I literally came back from vacation. My path, and for some of your viewers will feel the same, is not a straight line. It's a spiral. It's a spiral, and I was in a part of the spiral that I couldn't see what's after the bend. I couldn't see that part, right? But you have to be willing to make that turn. You have to be willing to just not control the outcome and let go and start over with a fresh mind. And that's exactly what I did. I stepped away from it, and I was like, my path is not the same path, the egocentric path that I'm looking at other people. My path is different, and I need to be okay with that. And I need to now explore what that path is going to be, because something good could be around the bend. And I'm just trying to get to the finish line in that straight line so fast that in the process it's killing me.
Oh,
and I'm
my
not even
gosh.
enjoying it. Right.
Yeah. So, you know, yeah, we've had these experiences and we've been in these places of like, what is happening? How, like, I was doing so well and now suddenly I'm back like day one trying to figure out what's going on. And I just want to ask, like, does that pain feel necessary at all? Like, do you think that that was a necessary part of your journey to have that experience?
Absolutely, because what I have learned is this was not 5 years ago. This is
Mm-hmm.
3 months ago, right?
Yeah, this is
This
like
is 90
current.
days ago. Correct. This is current. So what I discovered in that is when I let go, the things that it was feeling also that path, that straight line path to just get to success super fast was feeling also really painful and really hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like extremely hard. So when I went and say, you know what, maybe my path is different and I have to be okay with it and let go.
Mm-hmm.
I literally analyze what is it. I went back, you know how people say going back to your why?
Mm-hmm.
I went back to my what, meaning why is it that I sign up for being an entrepreneur?
Mm-hmm.
Why did I sign up for when I left my corporate job to be an entrepreneur? Mm-hmm. I wanted freedom. I wanted to help people. But most of everything, Allison, I wanted significance. I wanted my life to be relevant.
Mm-hmm.
And because I wanted, there's a difference between wanting to be successful and wanting to have significance in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So when I said that the decision what is egocentric is because I wanted the success of other people had. Mm-hmm. And in the process, I lost connection with my significance feeling, right? Mm-hmm. So I went back to that and I was like, what is it that gives me joy? What is it that makes my life significant? And it's helping other women solve the problems that are getting in their way to grow their own businesses, which they're passionate about. Oh, so going back to that, if you want like the short version of the solution, I use my own experience to birth something new, meaning I thought hard about, my story is not unique. There are other people going through the same thing. Even the biggest figures that you see right now, the biggest personalities have openly talked about in podcasts and internet information in the internet, how many times they had to pivot, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I'm not special. I'm part of that process too. Mm-hmm. So I need to accept this failure as part of life and move on to what is going to give me joy and significance rather than just trying to hurry up to the finish line, right? Yeah. In doing that, I use my own story, what was happening to me, my lack of motivation, my lack of hope of the things that were going to be better, my lack of attaching to one plan that might be different from everybody else's plan and committing to it, right? Mm-hmm. So I did something that is probably out of the box in the sense of like, it's not really business related, but it got me there. I said, within the COVID, like I said before, one of the things that really changed in me was because of lack of motivation, I started eating a lot and drinking a lot and doing things that are out of my routine. Mm-hmm. So I said, how can I be the leader how can I aspire people to follow me if I have things controlling me, if I have things like food and alcohol or TV or whatever controlling me? I cannot be that. People will not follow me. I cannot be that leader if I don't work on myself first. Mm-hmm. So I took a super hard fitness challenge.
Oh,
that
dang.
That is actually marketed as a mental challenge, because it is. You need a different mindset to be able to do it. And I'm super excited because my last day is tomorrow.
What?
My last day is tomorrow.
Oh my gosh.
It's a 75-day commitment. Everybody talk about 30 and 60. Mm-hmm. I was attracted to it because it's like, this is very long. This is 75. Mm-hmm. So I did this. I started the challenge and it just brought me to my knees. You know, there were so many difficult tasks that I have to accomplish every day that later on reflected in my health and in the way I eat, the way I exercise and all that. But most importantly, here, right? Most importantly is going from that motivation to real commitment, to say, I'm going to see this through. And not because other people are doing it, it's because it gives me that significance and joy feeling, right?
Yeah.
So as a result, to answer your question, as a result to starting challenging myself, I could see the leader that I could be. I could see that there are other women entrepreneurs going through the same things that I was going. And in the midst of doing my physical challenge, what I was trying to do for months, I just sat down alone in my office on a Saturday morning. And in 2 hours, I mapped out my next step.
What? Okay. What? Tell us about this next step. Like this. Okay. So hold on. Before we go there though, I just want to acknowledge that like you were in this place of like left or right, like, and if I go left, did I mean right? And like all of that lack of self-trust, and like you were in it for a bit, it sounds like, and it was having, you know, sort of, we think of holistic as being a good thing generally, but like holistic effects, like it was affecting so many areas of your life. And so you were in that space for a while, and then, okay, so just to highlight, like 2 hours on the Saturday, you sit down and you put something together. What did this story lead to you creating? What did you put together?
And that's a great insight. Thank you for mentioning that, because you're right. I was coming into a space that I couldn't even decide. It was so bad, Allison. I couldn't even decide like what to make for dinner. Like I remember snapping at my husband when he asked me what's for dinner. And I look at him like, what's for dinner? You figured out what's for dinner, because honestly, I decision out. I cannot make one more decision, and I really don't care if it's meatloaf or it's chicken. I didn't trust myself to make decisions. So it's awesome that you're bringing that out, because what changed, right? Like, how could I trust this 2-hour decision when I just spent 60 days questioning everything that I was doing? And it's because that decision, Allison, was coming from a place, you can put your own word into that, but from a place of your gut feeling, for a place of your intuition, and saying, I am not, it took for me to step away from it and say, and accepting first the failure, you know, accepting it as a part of life and a part of your journey. And 2, accepting that my journey could be different from everybody else. So I don't have to create the same things that everybody else has, right? So once I accepted that, into that journey, when I sat to that Saturday, I was open. I was like, I'm not going to try to control the outcome. I'm not going to be only strategic. I'm going to put my soul into this to give me the significance that I had before, because I lost it. I lost that connection, right? So I literally took one of those big whiteboard sticky papers and I started drawing, and then took my computer and my notebook and I started creating something. I was like, how can I solve the problem? Because that's what I do, is helping females to connect with the problem that they want to solve. So it's like, I apply my own medicine. So it's like,
beautiful.
Yeah,
Love when
so
that happens.
What is the
I am
problem?
a good coach. I do know what I'm talking about.
I'm like, I'm gonna coach myself here, but from the perspective, like I said before, of the student. I literally just sat there with no plan, no strategy, not looking at other people and say, what is the new problem? What is the new problem that I get to solve? Because obviously all the other stuff is not working.
What is the new problem?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
And that new problem was people like me, was women that were maybe doing well or had this great idea for a business, and everything, they just felt the floor going up, you know, from under their feet, and then they're lost. Then they don't know what to do. They don't have confidence. So what I was birthed there was the, which just ended on September 21st, the Refocus Your Vision Challenge. And it was literally that, like, I was focusing on one thing, which is like what everybody else is doing. I need to refocus my vision first to me, pointing the finger first and foremost to me. And that's why I went into that other physical mental challenge. And second, to the new problem, right? Like, what's the new problem that I want to solve? So I created a Refocus Your Vision challenge that day. And I thought, the biggest lesson on creating was that as great as a coach as I am, and a great strategist and great in sales, that did not get me that didn't get me enough in the times of trying, because the mindset, there's no strategy that can fix a poor mindset. That was the biggest lesson. There's no strategy that can fix a poor mindset. So I said, I need to do this, not only from the perspective and what I bring to the table, the business aspect, but I also need to incorporate the mindset aspect, because guess what? When things get tough, motivation is not enough. Motivation will get you this far, right? We need something else to get us through this, right? We need something bigger than motivation. And I call it commitment, right? Ooh. So it's like, how can I get people to not only use this strategy, but motivate, like put something in themselves that will get them to that commitment phase. So I partner with one of my mindset coaches, and I present her the idea. I will never forget, August 14, I made an appointment with her to have lunch together. And we met in person. And I even said, we have to meet in person. What I have to talk to you about is huge. We need to meet in person. So we met in person, and I show her what I draw that Saturday, and I walk her through it. And it was a picture of the things I was going through and how I was fixing my own mindset. And I said, I am a big promoter of, I'm not going to promote something that I don't do on myself, which is stay in your lane, stay in your expertise. And I said, business and sales and strategy is my expertise. You know, mindset. You helped me with mindset many times. So I think we should do this together. I kid you no, Allison, she had a huge journal. She opened the journal and she went back like 2 months, and she had a very similar idea. And she's like, I just didn't know who was going to provide the business side of this.
Oh my gosh, you two just like needed each other, and you found each other. And I think, like, I don't know, the topics that you're talking about and the transformations that you're helping people have, like, those are big time lifestyle, like life-changing transformations that you take people through. So like, I really enjoy knowing that there's like this, you know, kind of energy going on, bringing you two together, and just knowing like, holy cow, there's so much that we can learn through this. And so, yeah, I want to ask, so you mentioned earlier this challenge that you're doing, and that it's just about done. And you told me an interesting story that I thought was a really powerful takeaway from this challenge that you're doing with your spouse. Do you want to share maybe the story of him asking, you know, what you're up to?
Absolutely. I know exactly. Yeah, exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about. And if you get anything out of this interview, this is probably one of the most powerful things, right? Because with the story that I've been telling you so far, it's not unique. There is so many women struggling with motivation, self-doubt, that doesn't allow them, not only creates problems at home, because I was having those, but also doesn't allow them to progress with their business idea or their business. There's also the fact of having that commitment part, right? Like that's why I talk about, if you look at my social media, I talk a lot about motivation versus commitment, because it takes, what we need right now is not the same things that we needed 2 years ago to get here. We need more. Right. So that commitment piece is so important. And it's what we built in the Refocus Your Vision Challenge. And as I'm doing the Refocus Challenge, I'm also doing my own challenge, right? My physical challenge, which is very demanding. And my husband, so just for you to have an idea, I gave up the 5 biggest things like on my list, which is, you know, sugar, bread, pasta, alcohol, and cheese. I gave it up, right? Completely, cold turkey. So my husband asked me the other day, wow, you're almost done. What are you looking forward the most to eat on day 76? You must be just planning it in your head. What are you going to have? What are you most excited about? And I'm like, actually, I'm not that excited about Saturday. I'm not excited about Saturday. I'm actually scared. And he's like, why? You've done so well. Why are you scared? I was like, because the day I committed to this challenge, the decisions about the next 75 days were made for me. I didn't go with it with motivation or with willpower. I went with it with commitment. I knew I needed a complete overhaul of my life to be the leader that I wanted to be. So I said, this starts today, ends in day 75. So all those decisions about the cheese, the bread, the alcohol, they were already made. It was easy for me to step on it because I had already had committed to it. However, the challenge really starts on day 76 because the challenge is not now, you know, the 75-hour challenge or whatever, is the challenge of life. It's for me as a leader, having come to all this self-development, to choose every single day, from 76 to eternity, to the day I die, who is the person that I want to be? Is that is that person a person that eats bread or lets go or stops working out or stops reading self-development or stops teaching about these things? Who is that person? So if I knew I needed to become this person to be able to create the challenge, sign up 75 women in one weekend, do all that, how the decision is now mine. Every single day, it's mine.
Do you have, so you're going into day 76 and like you said, the decisions aren't necessarily made for you anymore. Do you have anything you're planning on doing, or anything, not like, you know, getting back into the bad things, but in terms of like keeping yourself in this amazing headspace of this dedicated, committed person who's created so much growth in her life? You know, do you have plans on how you intend to maintain that?
Well, yeah, you hit the right word, right? Like intention. Like one of the things that we discussed in the challenge is that, in the refocus challenge, is that trying is a word that should be out of your vocabulary if you want to go from motivation to commitment. I actually have a shirt that says, I don't try, I do. Ooh. Doing is that's commitment. Commitment is not saying, if I ever tell you, Allison, that I'm going to try to call you, you already know I'm not going to call you. Like I already set myself for failure by telling you that I'm going to try. So I'm very focused on the doing, right? On doing. And you cannot, when you do any of these things, right? Any of these things that advance you to and challenge you to be this person to get the goal that you want, you cannot unsee what you already saw. I cannot unsee the reality of how my life went from hard and conflictive and painful to joyful, easy. I mean, from idea to execution was 30 days.
Wow.
I met with Kari, which is my partner in this challenge, on August 14. We did the challenge September 15. It was 30 days.
Wow.
So
dang.
That's when you work on flow. That's when you're like in your element, you're in your significant story, and you just go. And it felt easy. You remember how I told you that I was working 12 hours a day? I did not. I had never been so involved with my kids' activities. I have never been so present. It was easy because I chose my own path. So answering your question on what's next, while I'm in the challenge, the next thing just presented by itself, which is I'm not going to leave this woman hanging. I'm in the middle of the challenge. I created the next step, which is Performance Accelerators, a 21-day program that we are doing already. Like we started this Monday. So we went right after, right? To take people from momentum that we created to habit. And the habits, and I'm modeling that because the habits that I created in these 75 days, that's why they're called habits. It's not something that you do occasionally. It's something that you do consistently. So what I did to get myself accountable, I actually signed up for 2 challenges in the month of October. Not 1, but 2. Just to keep me accountable on the exercise part, which I find is the hardest part of the challenge that I'm doing right now. So I am walking for breast cancer, 35 miles in 31 days. And I'm also participating in something called Active for Good, on which it tracks all your physical activity, and you gain points. And as much points that you get to donate food for malnourished children. So I'm taking it a step up, right? Just to keep accountable with that part. And in regards to the other aspects, right? I cannot be that person. Well, what I have built in this last 75 days, and especially in this last 30 days, I know this is the person who owns that step. The biggest lesson that I have learned, Allison, and I hope this serves your community, is that if you're in business 2 years, 5 years, 8 years, and you think that you already went through the stories or the points of your life that finally define the person that you're going to be, or how big your business is going to go, there's more stories waiting.
Yeah.
I now understand that I needed to get to that low point so this could happen, right? And there's definitely no turning back. I needed, sometimes your goals are so big that you need to become the person that can accomplish that goal. And that's who I am now. So that's not directed necessarily to what I fuel my body with, because I need a ton of stamina to do what I'm doing, but also the person, the leader that I want to be, because I know you like to talk about leadership, and your audience appreciates that too. This leader is the leader that those people can follow. So there has to be, I took on this challenge because they're great causes, but there has to be, I'm not even in motivation mode anymore. The commitment that I have to my mission, that's what makes me make the choice, right? I need to be this person to be able to develop that. And that's what we're trying to do. That's what we're doing with this challenge and this program is for people to choose who they want to be from here to life. It's not 5 days, it's not 30 days, it's not 75 days. Who do you want to be to accomplish those goals? And when the next story comes, when the next crisis comes, Allison, you already know that because you're in that spiral, you need to go through that failure or whatever it is to see what's after, right?
Yes. Oof. Oh, I love that so much. That like reframing of like, okay, it's not necessarily failure. It's making me who I need to be to lead this group. I absolutely like self-leadership, especially in how we take care of ourselves, is one of my most favorite things to talk about. And I really just like a phrase I use a lot with my clients is talking about having your own back. And like, holy cow, do you have your own back or what? Like, you're like, okay, yes, I am Karla Merrell, and I eat well, I move my body, I serve my clients, I spend time with my children, I have a thriving relationship, I'm loving my life. And you know exactly like who you need to be to maintain that. And so you hold yourself accountable to continue being that person for people. And I think that is just amazing. And you, it sounds like, are up to just the coolest things. So I would love to know, how can we stay connected to you and keep up with what you're doing?
Oh, thank you for that. Yes, absolutely. I would love to hear from your audience. And if you're a female entrepreneur or not that is going through these things, is going through the lack of motivation, doesn't even know what commitment is, like it's just struggling through the day. First of all, don't beat yourself for it. My story and other stories are not unique. Everybody's going through this, and there is help. So if you want to follow what I'm doing, in all social media, Instagram and Facebook, you can find me at the Event Maximizer. So I'm the Event Maximizer in all platforms. And also, if you want to get a hold on when we're doing our next challenge, because we're going to do it again.
Ooh.
Yes, go
Come
to
join me, listeners. I want to do this challenge.
Yeah, if you wanna jump into the next challenge, make sure that you sign up. Drop your email at Refocus Your Vision Challenge. Even if you see the old date, we're collecting all the emails for a waiting list for the next one, so we can keep you abreast. And just follow me on Instagram and on Facebook at the Event Maximizer. Everything, I always keep people posted of what I'm doing there.
Amazing. Well, Karla, this has been awesome. I want to pass the mic to see if you have any closing comments or anything you would like to share that you feel as though we didn't bring up. Any closing comments for us?
Well, thank you for that. I think the biggest takeaway, right? There's so many takeaways in this experience. The biggest takeaway is like, you are not alone. You're not alone. One thing that became really apparent in executing the challenge is the amount of women that were drawn by this message, and that they felt that they were the only ones that were going through that, or they were ashamed, like I was at some point, of being vulnerable and being authentic. Jesus, is so hard to be authentic. It's so hard to be in a world where all you see is the highlight reel. It's
Mm-hmm.
so hard to be authentic. I want to tell your community that they're not alone. And the fastest way to start pushing that boulder again, because that's how I felt. I felt that the boulder that I was pushing in life, which includes my business, my family, all that, it just came to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when you're trying to push something and you lose that momentum, it's so hard to start again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're bringing women into that momentum. If you feel that you're in a stopping point, the biggest or the fastest way to push it is not to push it alone. Is to find the right community to get you where you're gonna be. And I know what you're thinking between, you know, homeschooling your kids and working from home and all that. You don't have time. My biggest message that I have for you is that analyze where are you spending your time, and if that expenditure of time is taking you to that person that you need to be to get your goals. When I talk about the person that you need to be, by all means, I'm not trying to change you. Actually, I didn't change. I just elevated myself to the person that was already there. And you can too. So find the right communities, get the support that you need so you know you're not alone, and start that momentum. And sooner than you think, it will have become a habit.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much for that, Karla. I think, yeah, like my own, just to like piggyback a slight bit, my own journey, a lot of listeners know that I had like a tremendous mental health crisis in like the depths of my entrepreneurial kind of breakdown. And it truly has been networking with people and reaching out to people and setting up appointments and putting together collaborations, and like so much of that, just finding this community to like encourage me, like even on the days where I don't feel motivated or committed because I need some of this Karla Merrell amazing commitment in my life. Those days when I still struggle with that, I sometimes find it comforting to think like, okay, I'm going to do this like because I have this community looking at me, like I want to show up for them, I want to serve them in the best ways possible. And so I was just thinking like, yes, oh my gosh, community is just such a critical element. So this has been an amazing conversation. As I said, I'm so grateful to Karla for coming to join us and chatting and sharing her story, and just the vulnerability of talking about some of those shadowy parts of entrepreneurship. You know, everybody loves to talk about their $10,000 launches and their massive follower accounts.
Yes.
We don't talk about the like, I'm really lonely, or I like eat too much cookie dough, or I have, you know, like we don't talk about those aspects. And so I'm just so grateful to have had this conversation with you today, Karla. And so thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And for those of you on YouTube, let me glance over, see if we have any. I don't see anything in the chat there, but feel free always to drop a comment. I, of course, in all relevant places this video is posted, will link to Karla and to the Refocus Your Vision challenge, so that you can join me to do the next one, because I am Karla, follow up with me if I don't sign up for this. Hold me accountable to make sure
I will.
I need this in my life. But thank you again so much for joining us, and we will catch you all next time.